Okay, so welcome to today's lunchtime lesson. So today we're doing a vocabulary focus, and we're going to have a look at some words which are very often confusing or difficult to know the difference between. So I'm wondering what words you find confusing in English, because there's lots of words which look similar or sound similar, and sometimes if the spelling is similar and or they have opposite meanings, it's normal for us to get confused when we're learning vocabulary, or to cause us problems when we're learning vocabulary. So a lot of the words we're talking about today, L1 speakers of English also confuse quite often. Yeah. So if you want a laugh and to feel better about yourself, ask an L1 speaker to give you definitions for the words we're talking about today, because they're going to find it really difficult as well. So don't worry if these are difficult words to understand the difference, because they're difficult for L1 speakers too. So these are the words that we're going to be talking about today and discussing the differences between. So just have a quick look at those words. Think about if you could use them in a sentence. Think about what you think they mean. Okay, so let's look at the first pair here, hard and hardly. Yeah. So hard, if we talk about hard first, hard can be an adjective, but it can also be an adverb. Okay, so when we use hard as an adjective, it means the opposite of easy, so difficult. And it can also mean the opposite of soft. Yeah, so for example, the exam was really hard, it was really difficult. The bed was really hard, it wasn't soft. When hard is an adverb, it means that we use a lot of effort. So, for example, many elderly people have worked hard all their lives, or they partied hard all weekend. Hardly is an adverb, not an adjective, and we use it when we want to modify what we're saying, or to emphasize that only a small amount of that detail is true. And it's better to believe that the opposite is true. So let me show you some examples to make this clearer. If I say, I hardly knew him, it means that I knew him very little. Or if I say, it's hardly surprising, I'm saying it's not surprising at all. Yeah. If you use an auxiliary verb or a modal verb with hardly, you put the auxiliary or the modal first in the sentence. So it would look like this. I can hardly see. I don't say I hardly can see. And hardly is also sometimes used in longer structures when we say that one thing happened immediately after another. This is more formal, and we use it more in written English, right? So the local police had hardly finished their search when the detectives arrived. I wouldn't use this in spoken English. This is really more in written descriptive English. Yeah. We also use it with the expression hardly ever. So if something hardly ever happens, it means it almost never happens. Yeah. So I hardly ever spoke to them. I almost never spoke to them. Okay. Or Tim hardly ever met her friends. Tim almost never met her friends. Okay, imply and infer. So this word imply and infer, both of them are used to talk about communication and understanding people. So basically, when we imply something, we say it. And when we infer something, we listen to it. Yeah. So if you say it, you're implying it. And if you listen to it, you infer it. Right. So when you imply something, you don't say something directly. You put a suggestion into the message. For example, are you implying that the team cheated? I'm not saying it directly, I'm suggesting that. When you infer something, you take suggestions out of that message. So that's why we usually use infer with the preposition from. You infer something from. So, for example, then I think we must infer from what they said that they believe we should reapply for the job. So I think we must understand that what they were suggesting is we should reapply for the job. Okay. A really common error with this is we don't use infer to talk about what someone has said already. So don't say, are you implying, are you inferring that I cheated? You say, are you implying that I cheated? Yep. Okay, lie and lay. Now, these words are horrible because of the confusion with spelling and verbs and adjectives. It's very confusing, but hopefully this will help you understand. Okay, so when we use the verb lay, that means to put something down carefully in a flat position, right? For example, lay the table. Okay. Now, it always needs to have an object. Yeah, you have to say lay something, lay the table, lay the picnic blanket. It's a regular verb, but in the past simple, it has an irregular spelling. So we spell it with ID, not ED. So the past of lay, to put something in a flat position, is laid, spelled like this. Shall I lay the tray on the bed, for example? Or a wonderful wooden floor has been laid in the dining room. Lie is a verb which means to be in a flat position. For example, when you go to sleep, you lie down. This is an irregular verb. It doesn't take an object, okay? And the ing form is lying. The past simple of lie is lay. This is where it's getting confusing. Like, I love to lie on a beach and read. She lay on the bed and gazed at the ceiling. So lay here is the past of lie. It doesn't mean the first definition there. The dog was lying by the gate waiting for me to come home. Lie also means something which isn't true. Okay? So when we use it in that way, it's a regular verb. I lied to my teacher about my homework. Okay, so we can sum it up like this. Yeah. Lay, to put something down in a flat position, like a tray, like a tablecloth. The past simple is laid. Lie, to be horizontal, like in your bed. The past simple is lay. And lie, to say something isn't true. The past simple is lied. Okay? I hope that is clearer now. It's very confusing. Okay, practice and practice. Yeah. So the easiest way to differentiate these two in Australian and British English is that when we have the letter S, it's a verb, and when we have the letter C, it's the noun. You can see that as well in words like advise and advice. It's the same rule. Yeah. So this is different in American English because in American English, they use the same spelling for the verb and the noun. Yeah. So here are some examples of using practice as a verb. Okay. So I want to practice my English so that I can become a more confident speaker. I practice the piano for 1 hour every day because I have an exam next month. Okay. And if we use it as a noun, it would look like this. I went to the local medical practice to see a doctor for my throat infection. I want to improve our workplace practices so that we can create a friendlier work environment. Okay, now principle and principle sounds exactly the same. So principle spelt with the IPLE, this is a noun. Okay, and it means a rule, a law, a guideline, or a fact. Okay, so for example, I don't go to Starbucks on principle. Okay, so those are my guidelines, my personal beliefs. Principal, PAL, can be both an adjective and a noun. So if it's a noun, it means the headmaster or mistress of a school or a person who's in charge of particular things in a company. So if you think, for example, in the cartoon The Simpsons, you have Principal Skinner. Yeah. So that's a good example of PAL. Principal as headmaster is a word they use in American English, not in British English. When it's an adjective, it means original or the first or the most important. So the principal cause of death in Scotland, the main cause, is heart disease. Okay, memory and souvenir. So both of these words are nouns. A souvenir is an object. Okay, it'll always be some kind of physical object, something that you buy to remember a holiday or a place or an event that you went to. So, for example, he kept the spoon as a souvenir of his journey, or they bought some souvenirs from the shop at the airport. Memory is a noun we use to talk about something you remember. So, you can't touch a memory. Yeah, it's not a physical thing. One of my earliest memories is my first day at school. She had no memory of what happened. Okay. Memory is also the word we use to talk about your ability to remember things. So he's got a really good memory for names. He's very good at remembering names. And meeting him as a child really stands out in my memory. Okay, worthless and priceless. So these words are very often confused because they're opposites. Yeah. So both of them are adjectives and they are antonyms. Okay, so they're opposite meaning words. Um, so worthless means that something has zero value. Okay, so for example, I should have gone to a proper university. The degree I did is worthless. It has no value at all. Priceless is the total opposite. So it's something so valuable you can't put a value on it. For example, the Mona Lisa is priceless. It's impossible to say how much it's worth. So when we talk about value, it doesn't have to be money. It could also be, for example, an experience. So going to university is a priceless experience. You can't put any value on it. We also use priceless in a more informal way to say funny. So, for example, oh my goodness, his face was absolutely priceless when we surprised him. Now, specially and especially, these are very, very similar words, okay? I wouldn't get too worried about confusing them because they're used in a very similar way. Both of them are adverbs, but I'm going to explain it because people often ask me. So, especially means particularly or above all. So she loves flowers, especially roses. I could also say in particular, roses. I am especially grateful to all my family and friends who supported me. I am particularly grateful to all my family and friends. We never say especially I am, okay? You need to put it after. So I am especially, and then your adverb. We use specially to talk about the specific purpose of something. For example, the kitchen was specifically designed to make it easy for a disabled person to use. So that was the purpose of it. That's why they designed it that way. He has shirts made specifically for him by a tailor in sorry, not specifically. He has shirts made specially for him by a tailor in London. Especially can also mean for a particular purpose, like I bought these especially for you. Okay, but you could also say specially here. They're really interchangeable. Don't worry about it. What you can do now is go back to the list we saw at the beginning and test yourself and see if you can remember what the differences are between each of the two words and see if you can write an example sentence for both of them too, and then have a look again at the notes that we talked about.